I've been thinking about this word adventure, and it can mean many different things to many different people, can't it? It's personal and its effect varies. And when the spirit of adventure affects a nation, it can be inspiring, as in the case of Charles Kingsford Smith and his daring do, or it can be devastating. About 2 hours south of Sydney, in a quiet corner of New South Wales' southern highlands, lies the tranquil township of Bundanoon. But today, this little burg is on the march, with every face etched in 100 years of honour and memory. The First World War had begun and Australia had suffered catastrophic losses. At Gallipoli alone, more than 8,000 Australian and New Zealand soldiers had been killed. The thrill of what many saw as the adventure of war had seriously worn thin, and a referendum for conscription had failed, so those still keen to enlist began a recruitment march. In 1915, army recruiting committees were formed in nearly every town throughout Australia. And on September the 5th, 88 men marched out of Wagga Wagga, bound for Sydney and war. The Kangaroo March, as it became known, arrived in Sydney with 222 recruits. In September of this year, descendants of the original Kangaroos will lead a march through the 28 towns of country New South Wales visited on the original trek. This is all a dress rehearsal.
It is a dress rehearsal.
Which makes it even more amazing that you got to turn out as a dress rehearsal. Well, it's a dress rehearsal for when?
For the Kangaroo March, we'll leave Wagga on the 5th of September and go for 5 weeks through all the little towns and goes on to the Southern Highlands. And so we're looking for direct descendants or descendants of the Kangaroo March.
Across at the Hotel Bundanoon,
no more side beds. We all in?
Even the publican is recreating a genuine 1915 vibe. But for Harris Redhead, the Kangaroo March is his chance to honour his late father, Mark, who, in 1915, was the first kangaroo marcher to volunteer for an adventure from which so many of his generation would never return. So these men enlisting,
yes,
knew that the possibility of not returning was great.
Well, they must have known, but I don't think it influenced them. I think that all young fellows out to have a good time, travel the world.
Yeah.
I suspect that any aspirations he'd had of excitement and even doing the right thing by his country, you know, that sort of, I think they're all wiped pretty. I think they were pretty wiped out by the war.
Young and free, we are Australians.
As raw as the memories still are for the children of the soldiers of 1915, recreations like September's Kangaroo March ensure that the children of the 21st century never lose touch with the kinds of stories that still define us as a people. After the break, a bushwalking adventure 40,000 years in the making.